Have you read books on salary negotiation, maybe even created a plan, but then became frozen when it was time to actually ask for money?
Today, we are talking about why that happens because money confidence usually doesn't grow in silence.
Jennifer Kornely is here to share how learning in community can change the way women price themselves, negotiate, and even see their own value.
And stay with us because by the end, we are giving you one simple money conversation to start this week.
Hi, I'm Claude.
And I'm Jess.
We are corporate employees by day, entrepreneurs by night, and work besties for life.
Join us as we explore how work besties lift each other up, laugh through the chaos, and thrive together in every industry.
Work besties!
All right, work besties, welcome back. This month is all about money, power, and negotiation, asking for what you're worth.
And today we're talking about a part of the conversation that doesn't get enough attention, the role community plays in helping women actually change how they think about money.
Because so many women are reading, listening, learning, and still feeling stuck when it's time to price, negotiate, ask, or advocate for themselves.
Jennifer, welcome to Work Besties Who podcast. I read the bio on you and instantly was hooked. I was like, I need to get this woman on our podcast and learn from her.
Oh, wow, thank you.
If you wouldn't mind just starting off by sharing with our listeners your background.
I worked in corporate. I worked for a hotel company in their creative services team and loved my job. It was exactly my zone of genius, doing anything creative. But I reported to someone who didn't like me. He didn't like women who had original thought or a voice, and that didn't go over very well. So I'm naturally, there's going to be some pushback. And because he was the owner's pet, I was let go. Um, he didn't like me. He didn't want me there for no reason other than that. It wasn't like I did anything wrong or messed up. He didn't like me. So with zero notice, I was just immediately let go. And because of that, lost a six-figure salary. So I had been doing photography as like a side hustle, just here and there. And because it was a hotel company, I'd had access to really beautiful spaces. And so I was practicing with those. And I'm like, I could start my own business photographing real estate. I've already been photographing buildings. Why not? And I was living in Southern California. It's a massive real estate market. It's a gorgeous real estate market. And it's a year-round real estate market.
Mhm.
So I started doing real estate photography, but I didn't know anything about how to run a business. I didn't know how to network. I didn't know how to pay taxes. I didn't know how to pay myself. So like I was floundering. Like I was making good money. I'd do a shoot, come home with $500 or $600. This is great money. But why am I still struggling? I don't know. I mean, and it took years. I was just always running on fumes. And then eventually I started listening to audiobooks because I'm in these empty houses all by myself with nothing to do and no one to talk to. So I started listening to audiobooks, especially personal finance. And it's just this mindset shift when you start realizing, one, what it is that you don't know and that you're not alone. There, this is normal that women especially are left out of these conversations and we don't
Mhm.
grow up knowing these things. We're not
Yeah.
having these golf course bro conversations like so many men tend to. So,
That's
just
okay.
starting to take in all this information and it's like, oh, this person's going to talk about simple personal finance. And then this next person's going to talk about something more complicated like investing. Let me go down that rabbit hole. It's like being on Pinterest. You just go down these rabbit holes of topics and so I started listening to more and more books on more complex situations and seeing my business improve. I suddenly started realizing, oh, this is how I pay myself. This is how I market myself. This is how I make a business plan. This is how I should be networking. And all these dominoes just start falling into place. But it was still just this lacking feeling because I was doing it by myself.
Very poignant comments that Claude and I have talked about in previous podcasts. One of which is your first example of you were let go and it wasn't performance based. It really was like just because somebody didn't like you. and it
Yeah.
didn't let it hit your confidence. So I think that's a testament, and that's something that so many of us can learn from. The second part is that you had this aptitude to just go and start a business and take the time to start challenging and asking those questions that so many of us women aren't told or shared about finances. So, would you mind sharing in your experience, what are we doing wrong? Why aren't we having these conversations with women?
A lot of it is we're told it's impolite to talk about these things.
Mhm.
Don't talk about money. Don't talk about how much you have saved. Don't talk about how much you paid for your car. That's impolite. And like I remember growing up and hearing, I remember I had asked my dad, I had said, "How much money do you make?" I was maybe 10, 12, and I'm genuinely curious because that's when you're starting to form your knowledge of
Yeah, yeah.
what's the value of money. And it
Right.
wasn't like I was
You're not
wanting to be a
judging. You just,
voyeur into his
yeah,
finances,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't I don't know how much grown-ups make, and he had told me, he goes, "That's impolite, we don't talk about that." And I was like, "Well,
Wow.
how do I know then?" And I remember kind of starting to scratch the surface of how am I supposed to know this, but not having the vocabulary to really ask deeper questions. So then and I think that that's a really normal trope for a lot of girls growing up. Don't talk about that.
Mhm.
Stay quiet, stay demure, stay well behaved, stay small. Don't ask for more, don't get greedy, don't be bossy. All these adjectives that we're kind of labeled with just for being girls. And it all funnels down into your money mindset.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so interesting. Like you said, like a man will have no issue asking even for a promotion, for whatever, an
No.
increase. But a woman is a
Mhm.
bit scarier. We are not used to that and we're afraid to bother.
Well, think about too, like how all the marketing messages are geared differently. Like
Yeah.
marketing messages and magazine articles towards men are always geared towards aggression and investing and go and kill it and, do the things and be big. Whereas the messages to women are don't buy the latte, save, use coupons. It's very different
Or
messaging
going
that we
back to
grew
your
up with.
original part, it's like, put in the good work and you'll get rewarded and wait your
Yeah,
turn,
but you
and that's just
won't.
not the case either anymore,
No.
and it never really, in
Uh-uh.
fairness, was. That's why so many of
Mm-mm.
us still are not quite at the glass ceiling compared to the opposite
I
sex.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think to me, I don't think it's that women don't want to or can, it's just we haven't, to your point, even at a young age, be given the tools and the comfort level to have those conversations. And I feel like your example is kind of similar still even today. I don't think people sit there and have those conversations, and they should. It's okay to
Yeah.
have, especially with your own kids. Like,
Oh, 1,000%. And it's changed how I raise my kid. We have these conversations now. We talk about saving and investing. And when they got their first job at 15, it was a conversation of, okay, great. Let's talk about percentages. What are you going to save? What are you going to put towards your college? What are you going to invest? What are you going to have for
yeah,
fun money? And it was a conversation. It wasn't me giving direction or laying down
Yeah.
the rules,
right.
you know? And
It's giving
that's
them
how
the
they,
tools. Yeah, giving them the tools and the
yeah,
capability to understand. So it's
that's how
almost the
they build a,
exposure.
yeah, for sure. Because that's how they're building their knowledge of the value of money.
So from that perspective, a lot of women are consuming business podcasts and,
Mhm.
reading about it in books. That's and yet they still do struggle to go from the listening, comprehending to
Mhm.
action. What's
Yeah.
your what's your take on that?
So there's something called the learning triangle. So you picture, a triangle where it's small on the top and big on the bottom. And up at the top is consuming using one sense, whether you're reading a physical book, listening to an audiobook, listening to a podcast, watching a lecture, you're consuming with one sense. You're only going to retain like 10 to 20% of the information. The rest of it just flies right out of your head. As soon as
Yeah.
you start having a conversation, you move down to the next level of your pyramid. Now you're going to retain about 50% of that information. As soon as you just start simply talking about it with other people, you are engaging different parts of your mind. It's more of it staying. And then as soon as you start implementing it into your everyday, regardless of what it is, whether it's personal finance or investing or networking, you're starting to retain 70%. And then when you start teaching other people about it, you're retaining 90% of that information. So you're activating more parts of your mind. Because when you're only retaining like 10, 20% of that information, it's just great. You
Yeah.
read this book, you liked it, but a week later, someone asks you, what'd you think? It was good.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was about.
You're
I
probably
mean,
like,
have you ever
it,
had
it
that?
impassioned me. It impassioned me.
Yeah.
And then I went to go have the conversation with my boss, and I'm like, I don't remember what I'm
I
supposed to be
know.
saying. Give me
It
money.
motivates you for like 24, 48 hours, and that's about it.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Thanks for explaining it that way. Because I am a person who I do a lot of reading and I do a lot of comprehending, but I don't always then have the conversations. And you're right. The books that I take the time to then go talk to somebody else and then encourage
Mhm.
them to read and then have more discussion on, I tend to remember much more of it than those that I just read on my own.
Plus, too, when you're talking about it afterwards, you're bringing in your personal stories and you're able to ask, those little tidbits. I didn't quite understand that. What did they mean when they said that? Or when someone else brings in their life story that has a different perspective or different experience, you're learning at such a different pace than just reading one person's expertise on something.
Jen, in addition to being an entrepreneur with photography, you also started a book club. Do you mind
Yeah.
sharing with us how you started it, what it means,
Yeah.
where it's going?
So I mentioned earlier when I was be out photographing houses, I would be listening to audiobooks because I'm working by myself, and working by yourself all the time is really depressing. So I'm listening to these books and I'm like, well, this is great, but this is not solving my depression problem of not collaborating with any other humans. I mean,
Anybody?
you need that human
Mhm.
conversation. So I started reaching out to women on LinkedIn because I figure women on LinkedIn are entrepreneurial, or at least, career motivated. They're smart. So I was like, okay, who else out here is a reader and who wants to talk about it? I mean, not necessarily fiction, but who wants to read, you know, books about money and business and all this technically boring stuff, but who wants to talk about it? And all these women were like, yes, 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 I do. I want to talk about this stuff. So we started about a year and a half ago, and we started with half a dozen women, and we've grown now to 25 women. We vote every month on what we're going to read. I put maybe like a dozen different books of all different kind of nonfiction genres, and we vote. The winner is what we read. Everyone goes, reads it separately on their own, and then we come together once a month on Zoom to talk about it. And it's fantastic because everyone is at a different level of their career, a different level of financial literacy. So in some areas someone can be a mentor, in other areas they're a mentee, and it just kind of brings together all these different layers of knowledge and skill set and experience to really talk about the things we're struggling with, the things we've done that have worked, things that haven't worked. And it's become a really great space for women to become vulnerable about, maybe I didn't know I needed to know this, especially when we've had kind of books that were money mindset based. Women are really opening up and talking about, I never knew this. I am now 50 years old and I never knew I needed to know this until something happened. And now I'm like, oh crap, I don't know the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So it's a really great flow of conversation in our Zooms.
That is awesome.
This is another way of moving from network to community building. And I love that you're providing a forum with like-minded individuals that they're willing to have the conversation, but they're all coming at it from different ways, different industries, to points in their life. That's so smart, because how do you get women to start being okay having these conversations? You have to have a
Providing a
safe
safe
space.
space. Women need community, especially as we start to get older.
Mhm.
We thrive on community. When women have other women supporting them, we do amazing things. Women uplift the
Totally.
world. And when we have a safe space to talk about all the things we feel insecure about, magic happens. Last month, we read a book called Designing Your Life, and it's all about using design theory to build an intentional life that serves you. There was one part in the book where they talked about, it's not always just about being on top of your game when it comes to business. You also have to have good health. You also have to have a level of enjoyment or play and boundaries. You have to have all these other things in order to have a really fulfilled life. Work is only one part of it. And so we started having these conversations, and everybody was talking about where they felt they were lacking. Almost universally, every woman in the group said, I feel like I'm lacking when it comes to play. I'm not going out and doing something just for the joy it brings me, not my kids, not my husband, not my business, but my joy. I'm not going out and doing the thing, whether it's,
Interesting.
you know, playing tennis or going for a hike or, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
reading in the pool, whatever that joyful thing is. And it was an eye opener for a lot of women that I'm serving everyone else. I'm not serving myself.
Mhm.
So there it was, a few tears shed in the group, and it was like these kind of light bulb moments of, wow, I need to fill my own cup. So
Yeah.
the conversations go beyond just the I need to learn how to negotiate. I need to learn how
Mhm.
to invest. It's
Yeah, yeah.
also about your own personal
Personal.
improvement and mindset.
That and I think also when you're there and you come to those conclusions and everybody, I'm like, oh, it's not just me. That's where you can almost say, okay, I'm going to start doing things for myself and giving
Yeah.
accountability to each other to help
Mhm.
each other fill our cup.
Yeah, and the accountability is huge. So when everyone was going through listing what their area that their takeaway, their action item from the call was, I wrote it down and I made a list. I'll follow up a couple weeks later and be like, "Hey, how are you doing with you said you wanted to improve your play. You wanted to improve your boundaries. How are you doing? What have you done to do that?" Because we are a community. Yes, it's a
Mhm.
small community, but we are a community and we need to hold each other accountable.
I
I
love
love
that,
that.
and I'm sure they appreciate being a part of the group, having an accountability
Mhm.
buddy. I mean, Claude and I, that's one of the best benefits of a work bestie is I just have to say to her, "Hey, I wanna get back into running. Can you start pushing me to do it?"
Mhm.
And she'll be like,
Yes.
"Every morning, did you go for your run?"
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just makes all the difference in the world.
So, based off of that, it sounds like you would encourage women to have those conversations with each other. Are you suggesting they should actually sit there and state like their salaries, how they negotiated, how they value themselves, that type of thing? How would you even start that?
1,000%. It's
Really?
it's weird, I know, but I think it's so important that women have a group of peers that they genuinely trust, and when you have that really great group, you're not competing with each other. You're not, trying to one up the next person. It changes the dynamic where you can have these conversations. I remember I was doing some freelance work, doing some drone imaging, and I got called and they said, "Okay, can you do this job?" "Yes, great." And they said, "Oh, we pay $50 an hour." And I was like, "Ooh, that sounds great." Because it was more than I was currently making working a corporate
Okay.
job. So I was thinking, "That's great." And I was talking to a girlfriend of mine and she's like, "Well, that's terrible. You should have charged them 75." And I'm like, "God,
I didn't know that.
I
Yeah.
didn't even think about that." And so then I started doing the research and it turns out market rate was $100 an hour. And I'm like, "Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I didn't even question when someone just said, "Here's a little bit more than what you're currently making." And it wasn't until I had had a conversation with someone who wasn't even in this industry at all. She's a nurse. She has no idea what, the going rate is for this stuff. And having these conversations really forced me to
Really help.
reevaluate my rates.
So Jen, that makes me think as an entrepreneur, you don't always have that level setting or understanding. So it's super important to
Yeah.
ask others. Do you feel it's the same for those that maybe have a corporate career, content creators, like across the gambit, or do you think it's different?
1,000%. And sometimes you don't know what the market rate is. I've had several jobs where it's so unique. I can't Google it. I don't know what the market rate is. But a lot of it is if you're not asking for more, they're very happy to pay you less.
Find whatever industry elements are out
Absolutely.
there. And if you can't, then it is a little more challenging.
It's a bit different from asking around, like to divulging your salary to your friends. You know what I mean?
No problem talking about my salary with my friends. No problem at all.
With even the people in the same I mean in industry. For example,
Mhm.
Jess and I,
Yeah,
we don't know what each other are making.
absolutely within the same industry. Like I've got other photographers that I'll team up with and have brainstorming. We are technically competitors, and I will absolutely openly discuss what I'm charging because especially like with say photography, it is a race to the bottom with what people are charging. "Oh, I'll do your entire family session for $50." That's ridiculous. And if we're not having these conversations and people are charging these low prices, that becomes the standard of what people expect. I
Yeah.
won't take a family portrait session for $50, so why should you? There's enough work to go around for everybody. Absolutely. Nobody is doing anything that unique where there is not enough work for everybody.
What's your thoughts on that, Claude?
So once you have, you know, your friend or your whatever salary, and you find out they are more than you, they have more than you, there's really nothing you can do about it because you can't really
Why
go,
not?
you go and say, hey, so and so is making that much and I'm not. Why?
That's not how you would frame it, would you? I would be like, the industry rates are this, my value and what I bring to the organization are this, this, and that. Help me see why I'm not at that level, and can you help me get there? If not, I will
Mhm.
find a place where I can,
Because if that
right?
other
Like,
person who's
that's
charging more is getting that money, that means that that demand is there. People are willing to pay the
yeah.
price.
Yeah.
What am I doing where am I not bringing the same value? Is my quality not there? Am I not talking to the right clients? Do I not understand who my ideal client is? Because not everyone is your ideal client. If you are willing to accept those underpaid jobs, why? Why? What are you doing differently where you're not demanding a higher rate?
Mm.
Rising tide raises all boats. So if we all charge our value,
I mean, I think that's great because I mean, personally, I always had an issue asking
it's hard.
for promotion. When I got the promotion, asking for more, it's always such a struggle.
It's so hard. And
So
I
let's
think
let's talk about that, Cloud. Why is it a struggle? Like, Jen, from your perspective, what are ways that women can partner together to find the tools and resources, the skills to be able to have that conversation?
And that confidence.
the confidence it is such a hurdle
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
because you're so worried how you're perceived. My last corporate job, it was my 1-year anniversary and we were having our yearly review and where they were going to give you this much more. It's usually like in the 3% range. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what she offered. She says, okay, we're giving you X amount more. And I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, okay, that's like what, 3 or 4%? She goes, yeah, about that. And I go, I was not researched. I hadn't brought my stats of productivity to the conversation, which I should have. But I had said, because this was in like 2021 when inflation had just skyrocketed. And I said, well, actually, inflation in the state of Idaho is 10% right now. So anything less than 10% is actually a pay decrease. And the look on her face was pure shock. Like she had never been questioned or second guessed. And she just, oh my God, like she had no response. And she's like, I'll have to get back to you. And a couple days later, she came and she said, okay, we're giving you 10%. And I was terrified. I'm thinking, I'm going to lose my job. But they did. They came to me because they understood I was absolutely correct. Now, what I should have done was said, I have this skill, I have this certification, I am the only one who knows how to do this in your team. This is the value I'm creating. These are my years of I mean, I should have come with the stats to back it up to justify the 10%, which going forward is how I always approached it. But absolutely, you should ask for more money. And when you do that, when you're first offered the job, that is your most valuable point of negotiation. Because that's the time to negotiate for more.
Yeah. But it's not the only time, because let's be honest, you can
No.
be in a corporate role or independent too, but
Mhm.
and all of a sudden you've taken on 2 other people's departments, not even just workload, departments,
Yep.
and the salary increase didn't occur because you didn't technically get a different job title. So there are
Yeah.
times you should be build the stats. I've now taken on
Absolutely.
3 times the workload. I am now doing this much more to support the company goals, to gain more money for the company, whatever the stats are, and then go and have those hard conversations, because
Yes.
if you don't, they're not going to come to you on their own.
Their goal is to get you to do the most amount of work for the least amount of money.
Least amount of
Those are
money.
very opposite to my goals. My goals are to do the least amount of work for the most amount of money. So that's why, like, you should always be advocating for yourself. You should always be keeping track of these things. You take on those new teams and those new people, great. You need to keep detailed records. Okay, on this date, you want me to take over a whole team of 12 people and you want me to do XYZ? Great. What are you offering as compensation for that? Because that has a value. They know it has a value. That's why they're not replacing it. They want to save their money.
What happens when you push back and they just say, well, you know what? That's the money we have. That's it. then it's up to you to decide if you walk
It
or if you
is.
Yeah,
accept.
right? This
It
goes back
is.
to our last
And
Should
month's
I go
conversation.
or should
Is
I?
it time to go? Does my
Yeah.
value of how I feel about my company and how I am
Yeah.
perceived in this company no longer aligned with expectation?
Sometimes you do have to be willing to walk away. That's why it's so important to, even if you have a regular corporate 9 to 5 job, you need to be building your skill set out of that job. You need to be building your entrepreneurial skill set. You need to be connecting with your competitors. You need to be building your own audience on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever your platform is. You need to be preparing because there is no corporate loyalty. There is no safety net anymore. It used to be you'd go and you'd work a place for 40 years, you'd retire with a pension,
Yeah.
all was great. That doesn't exist anymore. And especially nowadays, the employment market's horrible.
Mhm.
Now more than ever, you need to be building an entrepreneurial skill set and know how to make money if the rug is suddenly pulled out from under you. Because, like, if your boss comes to you tomorrow and says, we're letting you go for whatever reason, doesn't matter if it's justified or not. It is so hard to find another corporate job right now. Can you make money on your own?
Jen, you did. You happen to have a skill that you already had in your arsenal. For those that don't, what would you make a recommendation around?
Start finding that skill. Nowadays, it's not weird anymore to make your money online. It's not weird anymore to make your money remotely or
For sure.
virtually you no longer need to sit in a cubicle from 9 to 5. It's very normal for people to have new and unique jobs. And I really think every woman, especially, but everybody needs to be developing something that can be monetized if that full-time corporate job were to go away.
Yeah, you bring up a good point from a corporate role perspective. Even if you are somebody who doesn't have an amazing skill like photography, you can still do consulting. You can still do
Absolutely.
elements of what your job was before and
Mhm.
offer that as a capability. And if you are in a situation where, as Claude pointed out, you do find out you're making half the salary as your counterpart, and they say to you, nope, we're not going to help you, then start building that now and find either
1,000%.
a way to
Because if
survive.
someone's making double what you're making doing the same job, they're already not valuing you. So what happens when you come to them with a bigger problem? Now, say suddenly your spouse has become ill and you need to ask for something bigger. I need to take 2 months off. Something like that. Are they going to
Yeah.
have your back? Probably not if they already
Yeah.
don't value you. But I
A lot
think
to
even
think about.
if you don't
Claude looks like so upset right now. You're like
think too, you don't have to always be so literal with what your skill set is. Okay, I was doing photography and it was a hobby and I was able to monetize it into a full-time job. More than just that, you have to think outside the box. Okay, I have a creative brain. What can I do that is along those same lines, especially like AI? You don't need a photographer as much anymore. People are doing their AI headshots and they're doing
Yeah.
even AI with real estate photography. So, what can I do that can leverage my creative skill set that's different?
And in both cases, you still need a human touch in a lot of things. You'll always
Yeah.
have some element, right?
I saw a video today
Hope
that
so.
was talking about is AI replacing jobs? And they were saying AI will replace the repetitive things. AI will never replace the strategy, the decision making, the connection. It'll
Right.
just replace the monotonous.
When it comes to, asking for a raise or promotion, what is the homework that you have to do before?
You have to know, first of all, what is your industry going rate? Are you being paid below market rate or are you already at market rate? And you need to know why you deserve it. You can't just go in at your annual review and say, I deserve a raise, even if it's my 3 to 5%. You need to know why you deserve it because you will have to fight for it possibly. You'll have to justify it. If they're sitting there looking at you like, I don't know, we don't have, it's not in the budget, blah, blah, blah. But if you can justify and say, I've increased revenue by $1 million, I've done this, I've done that, I've maintained these clients. If you can come to them and say, these are the things I have accomplished that are above normal, it would be absolutely ridiculous to not give you what you deserve because then they know, oh, they can leave. They have value. They can leave. They can go somewhere else and they can get the money.
So it's to show, even if you know it's not in the budget, it's almost important that you do that step for them to understand that you're not going to take
Mhm.
anything.
Exactly. It's setting a boundary because when you can justify this, you're perceived differently. She knows her value. She is doing the job of 3 people. you will be perceived as someone who's a step above.
You know your value.
Exactly. And when you know your value, others are forced to see it too. Because when you don't know your value, people will assign a value to you.
Yeah.
And then, so I think it's always important to keep a track, keep record of all your accomplishments and do it on your personal computer, not your work computer. Because if you are suddenly let go, trust me, I know, you will be shut off immediately and not have access to anything. If you have done a project that is just, wow, chef's kiss, you save a copy on your personal computer. You send it to your personal email. You save that PDF somewhere where corporate can't get at it. Because then, say you go to work, you go to apply for a next job, whether you're currently employed and looking for something new or you've been let go, you have all these things. Oh, I have all my stats here. It's the same when you go to negotiate. You go to interview at your next position, and they're going to ask you, what did you accomplish at your last position? And you can say, I increased revenue by 50%. I acquired 12 new clients a year. Whatever that thing is, you need to be able to show proof. So you need an accolades folder and you need a CYA folder, which is cover your ass. There will come a time when you will have to justify your role or your salary. There absolutely will come a time
Absolutely. Yeah.
in everyone's career, whether it's within the same company and you just want your worth or you're looking to leave. You will have to justify why you deserve X amount of money.
So it's always good habit.
I did put together a list of books that I think every woman needs to read. So they're the
Yeah.
best 3 books
Tell us,
in
tell us,
6
tell us.
different categories. I have a PDF download on the website, but it's like what you should be reading to master personal finance, what you should be reading to master investing, what you should be reading to master networking and outsourcing, and all the things to help make you a well-rounded entrepreneur, or if you still want to stay in corporate, just to have a sense of I can be my best version of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
we put on
amazing.
the show notes.
Yeah. Book club. Is there
Yes.
any opportunities for potential work bestie communities to participate?
Absolutely. It is a membership based book club. So it's $15 a month. But I do have a promo code, She Leads 30, and that will give you your first month free. So you can try it out, see if it's a good fit. And right now, we're just starting the book, The Psychology of Money. I'm very excited because I haven't read it yet, and it's been recommended over and over and over. So it'll be really fun to read it and just get everyone's take on where am I compared to where I should be when it comes to how we think about money, because it's so easy to have just this dysfunctional mindset when it comes to the monies.
Yeah. No, totally.
That is really cool. So we started the podcast with a teaser question that we would love for you to answer. What's a good question that our work besties can ask when someone is clearly underpricing herself or minimizing what she brings to work? So think about like me asking Claude, what would be something I could do to bring that to her attention?
Why are you assigning such a low value on what you spend your time doing? Because I think it really forces you like, why am I willing to take pennies when I am knowledgeable about this thing? I know how to do something. Why am I not demanding more? Everyone is an expert in something. Everyone has a knowledge base that's unique. Charge appropriately. You're not alone when you feel like an
Yeah.
imposter. I mean, it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm the only one who doesn't feel worthy. Everybody feels this way at some time. And then as soon as you start inching your way out of it and starting to feel confident about one little thing, it's easier to feel confident about the next thing and the next thing. And then it slowly starts to go away. And I think also too, just realizing nobody's thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are,
Yeah.
That's true.
I'll be at the coffee shop and worried like, oh, that person thinks my hair is bad. That person doesn't give a crap what I'm doing. Yeah. Nobody cares. They really don't care what you're doing.
Jen, we really want to thank you for being
Thank
on.
you. Thank you so much for having me.
The tying between money and confidence definitely is one of the areas I think our work bestie community does struggle with the most.
Yeah.
My biggest takeaway on this is I have to just stop reading about it. I need to have conversations with my
Yeah.
like-minded peer set and also with my daughter and start it young.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and provide that movement. And so Work Besties, we want you to be a part of this movement. Help the women out there, especially the younger cohorts, and start integrating that at a young age so that there isn't this dispel of what women should be perceived as. They have every right to ask for those promotions, to ask for what they're
Yeah.
worth, to be paid the exact same as their counterparts just because they're male. This should not matter.
Yeah, yeah. And for the listeners who knows she's been underpricing, under asking, or underestimating herself, what's one small step that you can take this week?
All right, Work Besties, have a great week and keep supporting each other. Remember, whether you're swapping snacks in the break room, rescuing each other from endless meetings, or just sending that perfectly timed meme, having a work bestie is like having your own personal hype squad.
So keep lifting each other up, laughing through the chaos, and of course, thriving. Until next time, stay positive, stay productive, and don't forget to keep supporting each other.